You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting right here in the beautiful city of Northport, Florida. I've got my very special guest, my good friend Peter Bartolotta, Mr. Hall of Famer himself. And I just thought I'd throw that out there because we just had a city update from our wonderful mayor, and our commissioners were all there. I think there was probably around 175 people.
Yeah, it was a good crowd.
A huge crowd. And, you know, some of the things that they highlighted were that we are looking really good as a city right now, and our growth pattern is good. One of the things that we were just kind of chit-chatting because we didn't have time to talk too much before this, but we were talking about affordable housing. Can you kind of highlight in your background what makes affordable housing happen here in Northport, and how can we get that started?
Well, you know, if my tombstone is going to say Peter Bartolotta, born, died, wants a plan. You know, because everything I say comes back to that. You know, there was something that just happened recently where the county bought land on the Mayaca. Now, when a government agency buys land in Northport, it means it comes off of the tax rolls, because the government doesn't pay taxes. That was a piece of property that the EDC's plan was to put an eco lodge on. So that opportunity is now gone. So when you look at affordable housing, I think you have to start with, you know, economic development, and economic development includes everything. It includes your restaurants, it includes your stores, your bicycle repair shops, and your major employers. So when you look at it and you say, which I hear politicians say all the time, we want to bring high-paying jobs here. Well, let's take a look at what the high-paying jobs are. What kind of a housing market do we need to support those higher income jobs? But whenever you get higher income jobs, you have jobs that don't pay that much in the same company. Okay, the secretary is not making the same as the vice president. That's the way it is. Right. So when we look at affordable housing, you know, I think what we have a tendency to do is we don't work on affordable housing, we work on subsidized housing. And we subsidize it by creating zoning laws. And there's some battles going on right now in the city with companies that want to build, you know, housing on commercial property. And, you know, they go before the city commission and the commission knocks them down. But they keep coming back, and what'll happen is if we zone it a certain way, they hire the lawyers to change the zoning laws. And if it doesn't happen today, they'll wait 3 years. They'll wait 5 years. They'll wait 10 years. And we've got to get clear that if you want affordable housing for the kind of jobs we're bringing in, what kind of partnerships are we forming with the corporations that we're looking to bring here? It's not zoning laws we need to have partnerships. That, you know, way back, I had some conversations with some of the biggest employers in the region, and they were not opposed to coming up with low interest loans and supporting employees and getting them into a house. So how do we partner with them in a way? And those are the conversations we should be having when it comes to affordable housing. Right now, we're just doing low cost housing.
So how would you focus that? If you had the wherewithal to put the plan together, what would your advice be? One, to consumers, and then two, to leadership here in the city. What would you advise?
Okay, the first thing I would do is put a plan together. What kind of companies are we looking to attract? What are their needs? What is going to make Northport attractive to those kind of companies? And can we deliver what they need? As an example, let's say you want to bring in high tech. That's a target industry, let's say. Well, then you better have some really fast internet, because the high-tech companies aren't going to come if you don't have quality internet at very high speeds.
I know we're working on that aspect now.
We're always working on it, but but Welland Park has it. Northport's working on it. Welland Park has it. Babcock Ranch has it. Gigabytes going into the homes. What are they doing that's different? And when you look at it, we got to make a commitment to that plan, and it's not a commitment that's based on election cycles. It's a commitment of the city that said we're going to do this, and we're going to do it over the next 4 or 5 years, and companies will work with you on that timeline. They'll if they know you're going to do it, but you got to do it. And then you start working with those companies to identify the housing markets that they need and make sure that we have that kind of housing that they require and that their employees can afford, that they can afford. When you want closer housing, you then have to come up with a plan to have those people work here. And I remember back in the days of AT&T, I used to work for them when they were going through divestiture.
Yep.
So I joined them in 1979 and worked there for about 3 or 4 years. And I remember one of the vice presidents was talking about Basking Ridge, which is where the actual headquarters were. We had 3,500 people working in this one building. It was very large, needless to say. And he said, everybody likes this, we talk about it, but the secretaries can't afford to live here. They have to commute an hour and a half to get to work, to get to the housing market.
Well,
so something's wrong. So I think there needs to be partnerships with the companies. And I don't see us doing anything like that.
And amazing, you just said something that kind of struck me, because 20 years ago when I moved here, we were that so-called bedroom community that they said we were, and we supplied all the workers outside of our city. And it seems to me that has kind of flipped a little bit right now, because we have a lot of independent workers here. We have a lot more going on, I think, infrastructurally around us, with Port Charlotte growing, Inglewood kind of tacking on now with the Rotunda area. Certain areas are growing now. Not that we're not, because we're at 82,000 plus right now. And I don't know that we were quite prepared for that number after the last economic downturn, that spike up again that we've seen. But I don't think people are running away from Florida. They're running away from other areas of the country, and they're coming to places like Florida. Where do you see us really intersecting with some of these companies? I know you're the outside the box kind of guy, but the blanket statement that we've got to draw companies in. If you were the economic developer right now for Northport, what would you do that they're not?
First of all, I think there was a contingency of people led by some commissioners a few years back that talked about Northport being a bedroom community. And
I hate that term, by the way. I hate it.
Yeah, I hate it too. And I think we've become that bedroom community. And my argument with that was always, if you're a bedroom community to Atlanta or New York City or San Francisco or LA, yeah, but we're a bedroom community to what? Sarasota, land of the restaurants?
Right.
So we become the bedroom community for the waiters and waitresses to live. And that low-cost housing that was available 10 years ago, it's gone. It's changing. So, and the land we have for economic development is diminishing every day. We keep losing chunks. So, we gave away the Orange Hammock. We gave away 5,000 acres to the government, and we didn't even get a concession on it. We didn't even get a deal on the water. We just gave it to them. And that was 5,000 acres that was annexed into the city for economic development reasons. We we lost land along the Mayaker. So we're losing those plots. So the next question becomes, if you're going to have economic development, what is it? And I think the opportunity that's open to us right now is the entrepreneurs market, where you can work out of your home and create the next Microsoft. Okay. Today, multimillionaires are being formed with apps that are being created in people's homes. So there's a market. We had a situation.
Well, wait. Let's stay there for a second
Okay,
because I want to believe that we had a discussion about this 10 years ago.
we did.
Um, before this was all going on, because we the incubator system, and the think tank and different things like that. And I know that I don't want to go backwards. I want to kind of push this narrative of we're always talking about the same thing. Well, a lot of times we talk about the same thing because nobody did anything with the ideas that we did before. And the funny thing is, it's the same ideas today. And the frustration I think that a lot of people get, and you correct me if I'm wrong, and I know it's a frustration on this side because I've heard the same ideas over and over and over. All right, stop talking about the same ideas. Why aren't there new ideas? Or why aren't we taking the ideas that we know have expanded other cities? I mean, damn, we go to Jacksonville to get the tree plan for a city that's not built compared to a city that has skyscrapers. We kind of think backwards,
Yep.
and then we kind of pat ourselves on the back for being innovators. Innovator of what? I'm confused by it because I don't see where we're driving ideas out to capture these new companies that are opening up, or even inspiring people locally to jump to the next level. I, Add something in if I'm wrong.
No,
And
I think you're hitting on a spot. And I had a personal experience. I won't mention the company or the agency. It's a federal agency because I think this opportunity is something that we should be pursuing. And I've been talking with government for the last 10 years and we never move on it. I don't understand why. But there is an individual who was in Sarasota and had a grant application that he was applying for. It was going to be $1 million grant. And it was given out by a federal agency. So if it's given out by a federal agency, then we should know who those people are that got the level 1 grant and then we're applying for the level 2 grant, right?
yep,
When I talk entrepreneurs, that's what I'm talking about. Why aren't we marketing to those people that are looking for government funding to the tune of $1 million plus? And this government agency gives these grants to businesses that have major economic potential throughout the country. And it deals with everything from the water and to healthcare to technology. It runs the gamut. All we need to do is market to those people. But we need a story. We need a story to tell about why Northport would be a great place for you to locate your business. And then now, in 90% of those cases, you need high-speed internet. And John, we've talked about high-speed internet in this city for the longest time, and I keep hearing reasons why we can't get it done. I still have sporadic internet where I am. So, but if you want these entrepreneurs, you better have high-speed internet. So you got to identify what you need to do as a city. We have locations where these companies can locate to that don't require, they're not bringing with them 200 people. They're bringing 5, 6, 10 people. So we've got those kind of office spaces available for them. And then what you hope for is one of them takes off. And you develop ties and you develop the relationships. That opportunity is sitting there. It's been sitting there for the longest time. No one's taken advantage of it. That's why I don't want to say anything on the air because I want Northport to be the one that takes advantage of it. And if I give information out, then some other city will hear about it like we've heard so many times, John. We come up with an idea, and the next thing we know, Sarasota's doing it, or Venice is doing it, or somebody else is doing it. So we've got to get outside the box. We've got to be thinking about where these people are and how we're going to get to them, and focus our attention on that. The restaurants will come; they'll just be here with the population. That's going to happen.
It's automatic.
Yeah, and I don't care if it's a national chain or the best restaurant in the world. that's going to happen if the demographics are right. They come. Period. End of conversation. There's very little you can do to market to them. We got to be talking to the next generation of, um, of businesses. What are those companies that are taking off? We've got a guy in Don Maselli right here in Englewood with 3D printers. Why aren't we actively involved in that kind of technology with medical parts that they're building? They're building. I heard that they're building lungs. Can you imagine that with 3D printers with cells and kidneys and livers? And it's like amazing. Why can't we be in that environment? Those don't take large footprints. The companies, you don't have to pay them money to get here. You just have to show them what a great city Northport is, with all the great resources we have, with we have a state forest in our property. We have thousands of miles of canals. We've got great fishing in these canals and the waterways that we have. We've got wonderful schools. All the positive things we have, we should be marketing those to attract this next generation. And we got to get ahead of that curve. We seem to be trailing. We seem to be following something else. And I'm tired of hearing the same story that we've got to have infrastructure put in. If somebody wants to move here, they're going to move here. Whether you have the infrastructure or not, they'll pay to get the infrastructure in if there's enough of an interest in coming here. How long does it take to put the infrastructure in? Most of these companies can buy that infrastructure and put it in themselves.
But the one thing they can't bring is the high speed.
The high-speed internet, and I'll tell you what's going to wind up happening is high-speed internet is going to go a different way. With 5G and all of that stuff, it's taken on at wireless is the way it's going to move. And guess what? We're going to be, by the time we get high-speed internet, that whole thing will have changed.
So
start with a plan.
Have you sat down with the new mayor? Yeah.
Then Barbara, yeah. Yeah, Barbara and I are close. We're very good friends. Barbara is a smart lady. She's got the wherewithal to make it happen. And I think she's making some positive moves in that direction.
And I sat down with her too, and we talked about affordable housing, not the subsidized housing, but affordable housing. We did have a plan prior to COVID, and we were meeting on that, and we haven't really fired that back up because what I know happened was, even though we came through a pandemic, the prices of housing here in Florida, they didn't slow down. No. They're only slowing down right now a little bit because of the interest rates being at 6%, because they're no longer at 3.5%. It's ironic that things took a turn for a lot of the country as a whole, with the economic downturn due to the COVID situation for a year. We're back on our feet down here. We're boxing our way out of it every day, and yet I still see where you're right. It seems like we're firing out where we want to go, but I don't think we're shooting out far enough. I
really come back to and ask the question when you meet with staff and you put them on your show. Ask them, where do you see what you're doing today happening? What's going to happen 10 years from now? And does that fit where you want to be? Okay, so
you know what? I'm going to say this to you because we have a truly innovative structure within our city right now that's working better than anyone up and down the damn coast.
Okay.
And I just had them on, and it's the recycling program, because we're 10 years ahead of everybody else. And I know this is kind of off topic from the internet source, but think about it. We've got somebody right now who's showing right now gumption enough in City Hall within the Public Works Department that they've put together a recycling program, bar none, that now is representative of what the state needs to look at. If we can think that far outside the box and we can bring in people who elevate recycling, I mean, we're taking like the lowest denominator out there in every city right now, because in comparison to Northport, our recycling is off the charts. We're paying for new equipment with the savings. We're buying a new truck every year with our recycling. No one else is capturing that dollar, not at that rate. If we can be that innovative, why can't we boast how innovative we are out to some of these companies? Because if we can do that with recycling, what could we do with some other companies?
Well, I think let's take that line of thought. And let's say that recycling program, and I don't know that much about it, so I'm just taking your word.
That's all right.
But if it's good and it's fantastic and it's good, I think the future of economic development for our city, given the resources that we have available right now in the limited space, I say it's entrepreneurism. So why aren't we reaching out to entrepreneurs that are working on what the next recycling process is going to be? 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we were talking to people about waste transfer stations. And we were advocating, let Northport be the waste transfer location. Why? Because we had identified technology that burns trash, and the heat that's generated is like the heat of the sun. It's like this stuff just vaporizes, okay? And it creates energy that we could power the city with electricity. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yes.
Instead of paying Florida Power and Light, we pay the city, and the cost would be less, and we'd power our own electricity. So take that thought and move it out into the future. What are the possibilities? We need to attract the people that are coming up with those new technologies to come here in Northport.
So I don't know who posted this at WKDW, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway because I am KDW right now. And I'm just going to tell you, if the recycling program is sending stuff overseas, it's because we've sent all of our manufacturing jobs overseas, Rich. We got to get those manufacturing jobs back here so we can get all that product that we're recycling here and trying to keep out of our landfills back into the U.S. economy. And this world economy crap, it's got to go away at some point, and we have got to start thinking USA, 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 because we used to think that all the time. And I'm going to go right back to you only because I'm throwing that out there because it was a comment. But Rich, I appreciate you chiming in, but we've got to take a look at where we're at today and move things forward. And it's not the fact that we're stuck in recycling, because I don't want this show to be about recycling, Rich. I really want it to be about the innovation of the future. And our city is taking advantage of a structure that's set out for them to capture dollars, to save taxpayers. If you got a complaint about recycling, it's way higher than our city department. Our city department's only working to do that.
But John, I'll challenge you on this, and I get the recycling side. But if we don't have jobs and people can't afford to live here, we're going to have the most sophisticated recycling system with no customers.
With no customers.
Okay. So you got to get back to what the name of the game is to generate high quality jobs for the people that are living here. So why aren't we pursuing recycling applications? Why do they put soda and water in plastic bottles that don't recycle? They don't go back to, they don't, it's not sustainable. They just sit in the landfill for thousands of years.
Absolutely.
The reason they do it is because of the weight. So I'll guarantee you there are entrepreneurs out there today working on that technology to come up with a biodegradable bottle. Okay? The federal government is giving millions of dollars to these people. Let's find out who they are and invite them to Northport. Let's be proactive. And maybe we're the recycling capital of Florida. Come here if you are dealing with anything in recycling. You know how many industries there are that are associated with recycling? And if any one of them take off, there's hundreds and thousands of good paying jobs. So you got to get ahead of the curve to see what that future is going to be. And then how do we attract those kind of people? Problem is we keep shifting gears. We go through election cycles and it seems it just changes. It just constantly changes. You need a plan. And this happens at the federal level also. We need a plan that we stick and you run with it.
So did you see the comment there? I think that's up by Rich again. You should have, is it Rick Severance?
Rick Severance is Welland Park, but he came from Babcock Ranch.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
So he said that we should have him on to talk about Babcock Ranch.
Who is Rich? I can't see the.
Rich
hey Rich, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, Rick Severance is a smart guy. What he's doing in Welland Park it should make every Northport resident super proud that we have this in the city.
Absolutely.
And what we need to do is bring those people together. Bring the movers and shakers of the city that have the wherewithal and the power to make something happen. And that's what we did with the EDC. We had presidents of companies. We had, there was a what do they call it? What's the show on TV? The Shark Tank.
Shark
right?
Tank, yeah.
Yeah. So they did something like that. It was hosted by David Dunrankin with the Sun Herald. Uh-huh. And they asked us to get involved and to raise some money. And I asked at a board meeting, anybody want to give money? And sure enough, I won't say who because then his phone will ring. But right then and there, a $5,000 check was written. So the winner of Northport was able to get extra money. These guys live in Northport and live around Northport. They need to be sitting down with them and asking them, what is the future looking like? Where do we need to go? How do we get there? But I'm an old guy now. I've been around the block a few times. I'm enjoying retirement. We need the movers and shakers that are the leaders of their businesses sitting at the table. Rich knows what I'm talking about.
Well, Kevin Rouse just said we should hold a Shark Tank style roundtable discussion here in Northport.
Yeah, but the innovation and the entrepreneurs in Northport are not the kind of entrepreneurs I'm talking about.
I get it.
Okay, we need entrepreneurs that are going to create jobs. Now there might be some out there. I don't know. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but the ones I'm talking about are receiving millions of dollars in grants from the federal government.
How do we tap into that system where we could find out who those players are?
I'll tell you after the show.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because I would love to be able to do that and maybe orchestrate that roundtable and get that information started. I know that back in the day, we had this discussion of, when we wanted to do things with the other program, and I don't want to highlight that because it turns people off. But the truth is when you start traveling and you start talking about the city of Northport. We took a trip up to Wisconsin, my wife and I. It was a family event that happened, and we met this company that was up there because we went out for dinner. Ended up having a conversation with them, and they were all about generating energy from the algae.
Yeah,
and I started talking about our city. And do you remember that?
Yes, absolutely.
And, there are companies out there that are looking for the environment that we have here. We have 80 miles of canals. And as soon as we started talking about 80 miles of canals and how it was structured, they just were like enthralled about what we had. we have it. Our diamond in the rough. I don't think we talk about it a lot, but our 80 miles of canal, that's a diamond in the rough.
Sure
And
is.
people don't know we have 80 miles of canals. If you type in on the internet, you're looking for 80 miles of canals, we might pop up. I don't even know that. I'm going
Yeah.
to do that here in a second. But the truth of the matter is when you're finding, you don't find programs that unless you start talking, unless you start generating interest with those particular businesses that are looking for opportunities like that. Um, that one unfortunately never went anywhere, but we did have dialogue back and forth, which was amazing considering that we had no structure in place to even put that out there other than a conversation.
It gets down to, I mean, you'll remember the ambassador program we tried to put together,
Yeah, I
right?
do.
Out of,
I
out
do.
of, out of Vision Northport. And the concept was really simple. People who live in Northport go to other places. So what if we could turn every resident into an ambassador that speaks about their city in a great way? What happens is you tell somebody who tells somebody who tells somebody who says, I'm looking for a city like that to relocate my business. And that idea was Jim Blucher, former commissioner. And we tried to put that together, and we were taking people on tours of the city. We were educating them, but it got to be too much work from volunteers. And we asked the city for funding to hire a full-time person to coordinate all of this. And they said they didn't want to do it, so they did it themselves. And I think they had 2 meetings, and everybody got a T-shirt. And then they got a photo op, and then it was over. So we need to, there's a lot of creative ways you can come up with to get the word out, but you got to know what the word is. What is the vision? And right now, there's a lot of people in this city that talk about Northport as a bedroom community. And I don't know of any business that wants to locate their business to a bedroom community, unless you're a restaurant.
Now, the minute that statement came out, I cringed.
Yep.
Because bedroom community sounds like a place that I don't want to live.
Yeah.
Because there isn't anything there.
That's not true. No, I lived in a bedroom community. I grew up in a bedroom community, Massapequa Park. But everybody commuted to New York City.
Right.
Okay. And we had Grumman Aerospace was headquartered in, north of me in Bethpage. So there was some industry there, but we had no businesses in our town. So we had a Main Street, we had the pizza place, we had a great place to grow up, but you worked somewhere else. We don't have the somewhere else to work. The places we have that are somewhere else are Port Charlotte and Sarasota, and they're restaurants. That's the workers that they're bringing in. It's not the high-paying jobs.
I agree, and that's I think what you're talking about is a much denser place to live.
Yes.
Also, than we have here. So I don't even want to compare that. Not that I want to take anything away from what you're saying, but when you look at us as a whole, we're we're a massive city with no true direction. And I say that because I've been here 20 years and we're just doing the same things. We're growing, okay? But I hate to say it, we live in a spot that's going to grow. I don't know that it's taken that much effort to make us grow. We had great housing prices. There's a key factor on growth. We have lots of land available, already plotted out, ready to go. We've got city infrastructure that, bar none, it's top of the line. No matter how you equate it out, no matter if you're displeased with it or not, we've got things that have to be worked on, which I know they are, with the permitting department and trying to clean that up to streamline that so that the growth here and the even the maintenance side, when you have to pull permitting, no one wants to do it because it's so strenuous to do it. It's people need to understand that we have to simplify what we have. We need to bring the internet up, like you said, but I also think we have to promote ourselves differently. I don't know that we're doing that full-heartedly. Anything you want to add into that?
No, I would agree, and I still don't know the answer to what will Northport look at like when it's built out. What will the jobs be? What will the businesses be? What will the economy be? What will the housing market be? Define that for me. And
And let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. So I know we've talked about this, and I know you and Barbara are good friends. I haven't asked her yet what she sees it as, but have you asked her what she sees it as in the next 10 years?
I ask everybody. I'll say this: it's most of the people I talk to in government can't define that answer for me. Now, I go to any business and ask them that question, and they'll give me a 1 hour dialogue on it. They've got a plan. They got a plan.
They got a plan. So, and I'm going to say this because Kevin Rouse put it out there. You know, we're not going to be Sarasota in 20 years.
I hope not.
We're not. We can't be. We can't have those buildings. We don't have those now. We're not going to get them in 20 years.
But what are we going to be in 20 years?
I think if we stay on the current path, we're going to have more housing. We're going to have our hospital. And we're going to be talking about the same topic in 20 years. That's what I see. Because there's certain things that have to, I think, be pushed into place. And I don't know that we're pushing as a community for those to be pushed into place. I think the community has to push for higher speed internet. If the community is not pushing for it, the business that's out there right now, they're pretty happy collecting their checks. And the Comcast of the world, they're not surveying us to see if we need higher internet speed. They're trying to capture the dollars for as little output as they have.
Yeah, but it's not the residents' job to put together a plan for the city. It's the city's job to put the plan together. And then to get the residents to support it, to educate them on it and get them to embrace it.
I agree with that, but I think that I think you're right. You have to have that, but you have to get buy-in from the city to push with the plan. And I don't know. And we've talked about this in the past. What is it going to take for Northport citizens to rally?
I don't think it's going to. I don't know. And I think the question should be this: what is it going to take for the leadership of the city to demand and to work on a plan and to say, this is our objective? I get the 6 pillars. I get all of that good stuff. I get the community of unity. I get all of that. That's good stuff. But what is the plan? And then take that plan and present it to us and say, what do you folks think about this? How can you tweak it? How would you make it better? And it's the people that are going to create the plan, because I've been through it too many times, John. You know that, where the people bring up the plan and the government says, that's nice. Next. And you wind up having demotivated people. They become deflated. Had good plans, good ideas, and the government says, hey, next. Okay, we'll see you next year on Tuesday.
Well, I think Sarasota Memorial made a huge mistake building where they built first, because they managed to shut one hospital down to open up another one. So we've got a shortage there. I think they misplanned. I think they really messed up. And I'm a huge backer of Sarasota Memorial. If that hotel or that hospital would have been built here first, that expansion of Sumter Boulevard would have taken place, what, 2-3 years ago? That would have been dynamic.
I'll challenge that, John, and say this. I think Sarasota Memorial has a plan. That was their plan. Northport is a pimple on the butt of Sarasota Memorial right now. Northport has a high level of indigent care, which, by the way, that's what we pay taxes to them for.
Right.
Okay. They're the only hospital that gets reimbursed for it. Okay. And yet they turn around and want to build in Venice. Why? There's more money in Venice. I'm sorry. That's the only way I can see it. The dollars, and I get business. I understand the business. You look at where the revenue is going to come from. But Sarasota Memorial is a public government agency. I'm sorry, they should be going where the needs are. Northport has a totally different healthcare needs than Venice. Average age in Venice is what, 65? Average age in Northport, 42.
Right.
Do you think there's a difference there? So when we had the CEO on our board, he said to me, he said, Peter, I am blown away by the difference between Northport and Venice. I never understood it. The healthcare needs here are totally different. Totally different. We have childbearing women here. They don't have them in Venice, not to the extent. Okay. So, the hospital has an obligation to look, and, I think as a city, we should have gone and found a hospital way before this. But we kept listening to what the stories are, and they put an ER in, and that ER it's wonderful that we have it. Don't get me wrong. But it's an easy way to transport people 45 minutes away.
Right.
And I've had loved ones, I know you have it, that go to the hospital, and I got to drive an hour to go see them, an hour to get back.
Right.
It's a long way, and that's with no traffic.
So I've got this statement from Bill English. That's what's happening to the 2019 War Memorial Springs plan put forth by the residents.
Yep.
I know this could be a hot topic for you on the War Memorial Springs side of things, but where do you see War Memorial Springs being an economic driver for Northport?
To me, it's real simple. Your basic decision is, do you want to make it an economic engine that pays for itself and throws additional dollars back to the city, or do you want to make it a park? As a resident, I would say if you're going to make it a park, sell it. If you're going to make it an economic engine, you have to have some type of a place for people to stay and spend their money. So what we looked at was a boutique resort, 200 rooms maybe. There were 2 conference centers where we could have weddings and graduations and parties and what have you. And it was very built in an environmentally sensitive way. We actually had an architect who does environmental architectural work. Okay, so they understand how to make that stuff happen. I don't know if we're looking at that right now. I think right now we don't have a plan for the Springs. I'd hate to see it just become a park like the residents asked for. And my question of the residents, we say the residents, but a lot of the people that get up and speak live in War Mineral Springs and the surrounding area, and that's not the city of Northport. So the next time they have a meeting, folks, if you're listening and you live in Northport and it's War Mineral Springs, get off your duff and go to the meeting and speak about what you want your tax dollars spent on, or you're going to be talking. They're going to have a lot of people up there talking about it that don't live here, but they want to keep the springs preserved on your tax dollars. So I think we need to make it an economic engine. That's what it was originally bought for.
Let's see. He says, do you have a plan for $250 room hotel and 300 condos?
No. The plan we had, I'd like to see them expensive rooms, and there's a reason for that. The tax dollars become the more expensive those rooms are, the more, the rooms aren't for Northport residents. The boutique resort is not for the Northport residents. That's revenue coming in. So your tax dollars, your tourist dollars are based on the price of that room. So I'd like to see that price really high. The condos is an afterthought that there's that kind of potential for people that want to spend a long-term stay. And I'd like to see those be really expensive and attract, people with a lot of money. Why? Because they spend their money in Northport. And if they spend their money in Northport, that contributes to the revenue. Now, how do you do that while preserving the spring? That's the real question. And if you take a smart developer who develops that property in an environmentally sensitive way, they want to see that spring protected, because if that spring dries up or it goes bad, why would anybody want to stay there? Their whole investment goes out the window.
Well, I know we're having an issue back in that area too, because of the residents. The residents are very strong goers of the spring, and they truly don't want it to change.
Sure.
That is a staple hold of their area, their culture, really.
Yeah.
And part of the problem we have in that whole area is there's a separation between city land and county land, and there's some infrastructure there that is in dire need, whether it be on the city side of the line or on the county side of the line. That infrastructure has to be addressed,
Mm-hmm.
because that truly is partly why we're having issues with red tide and different things like that. We've got to start getting ourselves off of the septic side of things.
Absolutely.
I know that the hot buttons are out there. Boyd Klein said there are so many facts about this are wrong. Give me an example so I can have that conversation. That was too mass of I'm not sure which topic or how you meant that, Boyd. If you can type that in for me, I'd appreciate it. Um, you know, the the beauty in this show, and I want people to hear me out. The beauty in the show is to start conversation, because we're all not talking. I'm glad that everybody's participating. The William English, the Boyd Kleins, the Kevin Rouse, and many others that are part of this whole thing. If we all don't start talking about the progress of the city, other people who have their vision will put their vision on Northport. And that's sort of where it's been going.
Yep.
Is that we have not, as a community, been able to push a narrative of what you all want. The opportunity is there, but we're not pushing that. I think our agenda as voters hard enough and fast enough to get people to rally and change. When you can get 3,000 voters and you can get yourself elected, we're 82,000 strong.
Yep.
I want you to do the math on that. I want you to understand that if you're not voting and you got a bitch in the world, don't do it here, because your vote counts. And the only way you can complain is if you vote. If you vote, then understand what you're voting for, and put people in the position that are going to drive your narrative, that are going to take it your direction. That's the difference, I think, across the board.
Well, but I really think we need to be clear about something. When we talk about residents standing up and promoting the vision, and this is coming from my personal experience. I've tried it 3 times, and it's faulted every time. It's got to come from the government, and what's got to come from us as residents, we've got to demand it of the government. Show me your plan. And then let's sit down and have a dialogue about that plan. What I like about it, what I don't like about it, et cetera. But it becomes that somebody's got to put the basic core of the plan together. Otherwise, we always have these meetings, and Kimberly Horn runs them, and they do in the same format, and we all take little yellow sheets of paper and we stick them on the board. What do you want to see? And they put it down, and then they add them all up, and they total it and divide it by 6, and they come back and say, people want green trees, sidewalks, and whatever, but there's no cost element to it. So if I had unlimited funds, yeah, I'd have a lot of ideas I'd want to have. But tell me what it's going to cost me, and all of a sudden I'd say, well, maybe I don't want that much. I didn't realize it was that expensive. So there needs to be a two-way dialogue. It's got to be instituted by the government, though.
I think this has been officially, this has been the fastest show that I've done. I can't believe it, because the truth of the matter is The only true thing that you said to me when we started this show that I can honestly say after the fastest show, what are we going to talk about? Okay, what are we going to talk about?
We never have a problem with that.
But I want to put this statement up because I want to answer this, and it was by Bill English. And he says, why are we turning our parks into economic drivers, and hold Peter, and housing to reduce the level of services as the population increases? Simply more people, less parks is the direction. I don't think we're talking about all parks. I think truthfully, we're talking about what Warm Middle Springs was projected to be years ago and what it's not projected to be today.
Yeah.
And that's the flip. Now, if they want to make it a park, make it a park. But make it a park. Don't talk to me about making it a money generator. It's just land. But
if you go back to when it was bought,
go ahead.
John, you were here, and Bill, I think you were here too. When it was purchased for $5.5 million, it was purchased as an economic driver. It was going to be an economic engine. That's why everybody got behind it. Then somehow it got turned into a park. So we spent $5.5 million on a piece of property, and then we have to spend millions of dollars more to turn it into a park. That's not what the residents of Northport wanted. We wanted it as an economic engine. So go back to why it was purchased in the first place. And then, there was a couple of people that stood up and said, well, you use park money for it. And I think that's where it started to twist and say, you used it for park money, so we have to be legal. We can only use it as a park. I mean, we complicated it. It was way too complex. And that's why, by the way, the county got out of the deal. And Northport bought it back from them. They gave them the $2.75 million, and now Northport owns it completely. But it was always going to be an economic engine, Bill. And when people talk about we have too many parks, we're a city of 104 square miles, folks. We're the third largest city in landmass in the state of Florida. Okay? It's going to take more parks than the average city because we are so big. So I understand putting the parks in the strategic locations around the city so people at the east end can enjoy a park in their neighborhood and the people in the center can. And we treat everybody in a fair and equitable manner. I get that. But a park is an expense. Show me where the revenue side comes from. Where do we pay for this? And there's only two places to pay for it. It's either me or somebody else. I don't know about you, but I want somebody else to pay for it.
Well, listen, I tell you that I've enjoyed this. I'm glad that we've had all this participation. I think that you, me, and Mr. English probably need to have coffee one morning and sit down and talk. I also believe he's got lots of things posted there. If you're listening today, please listen every week, Mondays and Fridays from 3 to 4 o'clock. We have the commissioners on. I've got great shows, great content. I honestly want to move Northport forward. And if you want to check out Northport Forward, that's an awesome group to go get great shooting information from.
Yep.
And truthfully, I think we all need to chime in and give our 2 cents across the board. And I'm glad we're doing it. Peter, Bartolotta, thank you so much. All
enjoyed it as always.
Guys. Peter, have a great night. We'll talk to you soon. You guys drive safe on the way home.
Okay, give me a call, Johnny.
All right.
Give me a call. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.